Obviously, James Comey is going to testify tomorrow, barring some act of God. Washington, D.C., the whole country is expecting that something might come out of this. Well, we don't know what the questions are that will be asked, and we don't know what Comey's responses will be, but we do have a pretty good idea of what he's going to say during his testimony, since the entire thing was leaked the day before. I'm not entirely sure why that was the case, but we're gonna read a little bit of it. Can't cover the whole thing, it's 7 pages, you can read it if you want. It's a very entertaining read. Here are a few sections. Comey says, I felt compelled to document my first conversation with the president-elect in a memo, referring perhaps to the memo that leaked a couple of weeks ago. To ensure accuracy, I began to type it on a laptop in an FBI vehicle outside Trump Tower the moment I walked out of the meeting. Creating written records immediately after one-on-one conversations with Mr. Trump was my practice from that point forward. This had not been my practice in the past. And this initial hurriedly typed down memo is another of the instances, it's concerning one of the instances in which Trump put pressure on him to back off the investigation into Flynn. And he said this, I thought this was very interesting. My instincts told me that the one-on-one setting, this is during the dinner we've talked about previously, and the pretense that this was our first discussion about my position meant the dinner was, at least in part, an effort to have me ask for my job and create some sort of patronage relationship. Because the setup made me uneasy, I added that I was not reliable in the way politicians use that word after Trump said, I want loyalty. But he said he could always count on me to tell the truth. I added that I was not on anybody's side politically, and I could not be counted on in the traditional political sense. A few moments later, the president said, I need loyalty, I expect loyalty. Interesting there. He goes on to say, and this is one of my favorite parts, it's just, only with Trump as president do we get memos by former heads of the FBI that say things like this. On the morning of March the 30th, the president called me at the FBI. He described the Russia investigation as, quote, a cloud that was impairing his ability to act on behalf of the country. He said he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. He asked what we could do to lift the cloud.
But why?
I'm assuming the hookers is a direct quote. I don't think Comey came up with that.
No, I don't think he would have said hookers. And that the fact that that was the only thing that Trump was concerned about is hilarious and ridiculous.
Hilarious and ridiculous, yet now I'm like, oh, he met with hookers in Russia, right? Like he keeps putting his foot in his mouth over and over again. Like, first of all, I don't care if you met with hookers in Russia, but for those who might care, now all of a sudden it planted a seed, right?
Well, then you have to go and dispute the rest of the salacious claims, right?
Yes.
Like, you can't just say, I did not meet with hookers in Russia. The rest of that, maybe I did, but not the hookers.
That's a good point. Yeah, we heard you went to Russia and you slept with a hooker and then had like way too much cake. I didn't have cake.
Right.
That seems suspicious. Yeah, and look, I get why, devil's advocate, if none of it happened, you could be justifiably frustrated by people talking about it. That is entirely legitimate.
Which is
talking
why
about it with the head of the FBI seems suspicious though.
And also, look, if I was accused of something that I know I didn't do, I would be as transparent as possible, and I would cooperate as much as possible to prove that I wasn't involved in whatever it is, right? And he's doing the exact opposite of that. So if really there was no issue with Russia, yet he's going out of his way to obstruct justice, why? Like, what is going on with you? What is wrong with you? And that's the theme that we keep seeing play out again and again with Trump and his administration.
Yeah. Now I will say my prediction for tomorrow, I know a lot of people are hoping, so Comey's gonna testify and he's just gonna lob bombs and it's gonna shake up the whole thing. And that's possible, but based on what we've read, it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. Like, this is very interesting. I read this as clear obstruction of justice, documented contemporaneously, backed up by multiple sources in the White House, which should be enough to theoretically impeach the guy, but we live in a crazy world, so it won't. I don't think that a lot of craziness is gonna come about naturally from Comey, but there is one wild card in this, and that is Donald Trump. So Robert Costa tweeted, I'm told by 2 White House sources that President Trump does not plan to put down Twitter on Thursday, may live tweet if he feels the need to respond.
Sounds like a great idea.
It sounds like a wonderful plan.
He is notorious for getting himself into trouble with the kinds of tweets he puts out there, right? And it's been part of the reason why he hasn't been able to implement some of his executive actions, something that I've brought up on the show multiple times, not able to implement the travel ban because he referred to it in a way that made it clear that it was discrimination against Muslims, which is unconstitutional.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to tweet, have at it, have fun.
He wants to distract. He knows if something bad has happened, I have to distract. But very often he distracts himself by shooting himself in the legs and door. Like he doesn't know what's gonna hurt him in the long run. And it's entirely possible that he will reveal something that the senators questioning Comey will see, because it's on Twitter, and then they will be able to ask Comey about it in real time.
Right.
And if he starts attacking, if he starts threatening Comey, Comey might be pushed into revealing more than he otherwise would. I'm assuming that Comey is going to sort of go soft, slow roll this, because I think that he's working behind the scenes with Mueller. But that doesn't mean that theoretically Trump couldn't push him into revealing more than he otherwise might.
I know what you're thinking. Cenk, what do I get if I'm a Young Turks member? Well, I'm glad you asked. Not only do you get the whole 2-hour show on demand anytime you want, ad-free, but you get 6 podcasts on top. What are they? Join up, find out, they're amazing. You're gonna love these shows. TYTnetwork.com/join.